Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about Saber's response to the Voice Pack DLC controversy, a new Bulwark cosmetic skin that is leaked to be coming to Space Marine 2, and also answers about FOV sliders for console, on top of some new customization options coming in patch 13, and all the release date info we have so far. The first thing we'll be talking about here though is the $5 Voice Pack DLC and Saber's response to the massive backlash they received over this. This was the biggest controversy this game has had since its original launch in 2024, which is kind of funny considering it has nothing to do with the actual gameplay of the game. But that being said, the chapter head and voice pack DLC already had a lot of players a bit wary at its announcement, since it was separate from the Season 2 pass and players felt a bit cheated. Focus Entertainment's response to players voicing their misgivings definitely did not help smooth things over, since they kind of just told players to read the fine print and see that the roadmap didn't say they would get a voice pack with Year 2, which, while technically this was true and it was not on the roadmap for Year 2, the general player expectation in pretty much any game when buying a season pass is that you will get all the content that comes out for that year. So players were already rubbed the wrong way a bit on this one, so by the time it actually came out with patch 12 and it turned out to be a subpar DLC, the community was ready to hate this one. It definitely did not help that Focus's community manager came out with a ridiculous statement like saying that a DLC voice pack with all lines would actually cost players $20 to $25. That was a ludicrous thing to tell your player base, especially when they were already pissed off at you, but thankfully Focus did come to their senses, and they have decided to make the DLC free for everybody, and they are also going to be refunding it for everyone who previously purchased it, officially stating that delivering quality content free or not is a priority for them, even though we don't know exactly when the refunds will be handed out. The DLC voice pack is still currently listed and purchasable on Steam, but they did say they will be working with platform owners on getting everyone a refund, and there will be more info on this with time. They also said there are unlikely to be any more additions to the voice pack DLC after this decision, but that's pretty understandable considering it is a free DLC now. This really was a huge win for the community because this was the first additional DLC of any kind we've had for Space Marine 2 beyond the season pass items, and it did feel a bit like this was Focus testing the waters to see how players would react to additional DLC items in this game. We already know that Saber and Focus had at least some plan of adding more chapter heads and voices in the future for chapters like Raven Guard and White Scars, even though they do seem a bit more hesitant now. So the community reaction to this DLC was most likely going to set the precedent for what we could expect from DLC packs in the future. And the fact that players made their voices heard, told Focus that this is not the quality of content they want, will probably have major implications not just for future DLCs in this game, but also the DLCs in Space Marine 3. Because while Space Marine 2 is overall very consumer friendly in its monetization plan, giving out all gameplay features like new classes, weapons, and operations maps for free, I expect Space Marine 3 to have a far more aggressive monetization plan, and the massive backlash they got from this DLC pack will almost certainly affect how they intend to sell DLC in that game, since I doubt they want to see another controversy in Space Marine 3. I am happy to see that Focus came around on this though, as usually you see companies like this just dig their heels in during a controversy and refuse to accept that they messed up at all. The most egregious example of this I can think of was EA during the launch of Battlefront 2, where they kept defending their awful MTX system until they made a full heel turn once they were practically forced to. This situation was obviously not remotely as bad as that one, but I am still glad to see that they had the common sense to just take the L on this one and refund everybody. But let me know how you feel about the DLC voice pack controversy. I know most people in the community were on the same page with this one, and if you want to hear more of my thoughts on this, you can check out my video with my friend Jefficus, where he went into far more detail on this one. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the upcoming stuff for patch 13. Patch 13 is set to release sometime in April or May according to Focus. We're probably going to get another PTS next month rather than the official release though. This will include the new operation and boss, which I previously talked about, with the upcoming Terminator Chaos Sorcerer and a progression update we know basically nothing about. And they have also said we will be getting an updated roadmap for it sometime in April, so I would not expect any major patch release beyond maybe a public test server until May. That being said, we do actually have a lot of info on cosmetics coming with this new patch. The Iron Hands chapter pack is set to not only have 4 successor chapters like the Iron Lords and Sons of Medusa, but also an Iron Hands champion skin for the Techmarine. I actually completely forgot that chapter packs were a thing in this game that gave both successor chapters on top of a champion skin as a bundle. We have not had a single one of these in Year 2 up until now, and all the other DLCs we've had in Year 2 were champion packs and separate cosmetic packs. We don't know exactly what the Iron Hands champion will look like, but I assume it's just going to be an Iron Father, since these guys are basically just a mix of a chaplain and a Techmarine. Iron Hands also usually retain their black armor for their Techmarines, unlike other chapters who usually use red, so it'll be nice having something a bit different. But something really interesting is that we also have data mines for a Victrix guard skin for the Bulwark class, presumably. These were seen in the campaign a bit alongside Chapter Master Calgar, and they also have a model in the Ordeal section on the battle barge. People have been asking for them as a skin for Bulwark for ages, pretty much since the game came out, and Saber did previously say no, but it does look like we'll be getting them eventually now. There's also a data mine for a Wolfguard helmet, and these could both be part of the progression update in patch 13 that we know literally nothing about yet. If we are getting cosmetic unlocks as an addition to the progression system with this, I think that would be amazing. Space Marine 2 really lacks major armor unlocks for challenges outside of stuff like a Traitor's Thunderhammer or Tyrannic War Veteran pieces in the Ordeal system, so having something as cool as a Victrix Guard as a free unlockable item for completing in-game challenges is what I've been wanting from this game for a while now. We also had a data mine for a new blue coloring for your armor called Calgar Blue. Focus did previously mention in their community update for February that they will be adding in new coloring options to better match the blue of the Ultramarines in the campaign. If you were unaware, the Ultramarines in the campaign actually have a different shade of blue on their armor, and while Focus said this was primarily due to the campaign lighting and set pieces being made specifically with Ultramarines in mind, while the operations mode was made for multiple types of customization, they still doubled down that they want to bring a coloring option to bring it closer to campaign in the community post, so we can definitely look forward to that for operations. They will also bring a ton of brand new chapter markings in an upcoming patch. There are currently a lot of successor chapters missing from the game that were not added in cosmetic or chapter packs, and while we won't be getting any new color patterns for them or coloring options, they have made it clear that they want to add more chapter markings around these. This will be true for both Heretic Legions and Loyalist chapters, so you can properly LARP as an Iron Warrior or Emperor's Children for Heretics, or things like Marines Malevolent and Angels in Carmine for Loyalists. I was not really expecting them to do this. Previously, Games Workshop said no to any Heretic armor in PvE, but I guess they were only talking about PvP. But let me know what successor chapter you want to see added to Space Marine 2, and if you want to see Heretic Astartes in PvE someday. I have a sneaking suspicion we might see this eventually, but I'll talk more on that in a future video. And on the note of even more cosmetics, a big complaint about Techmarine's launch was that his armor customization was severely limited compared to other classes. The pauldron you get for prestiging all classes that got locked for players once Techmarine came out can't even be used by him, and he is also unable to use any of the Deathwatch cosmetics, despite his best gun being the Deathwatch Heroic Heavy Bolt Rifle, which is kind of hilarious to me. And I know he's a free class, so I didn't expect the same level of customization as every other class, but a lot of his outfits do all feel incredibly samey, and half of the fun of Space Marine 2 is customizing your Marines anyways. Focus has responded to some player questions regarding this, saying that more Techmarine customization is coming eventually. They have made a pretty big effort in year 2 to expand the customization across all classes with interchangeable champion armor pieces and other stuff, so them confirming more for Techmarine isn't that shocking, but it's good to know more is on the way. Now, something else I want to talk about here is the diabolical enemy director in patch 12. A lot of players have been complaining about the abnormal amount of range spam since the Techmarine update came out. I have noticed this a bit as well, that there just seems to be a ridiculous amount of bramble and snipers these days, which has been incredibly annoying. Focus did come out and say nothing was directly patched, but there was probably an enemy director change that caused this. Whether it was intentional or not, we have no idea, but I assumed it was because the enemies that seem to be increased, like Venom Cannon Warriors and Barb Stranglers, are directly detrimental to the Techmarine turrets. They probably didn't want to have players have an incredibly easy time camping around their Tarantula sentry guns, so Bramble's an easy way to force player movement, and snipers also do a tremendous amount of damage to your turrets, killing them in a few shots at times. If this was intentional, I don't think upping the range spam was really the right choice, since range spam is already notoriously controversial in Space Marine 2's community. And Techmarine's turrets really aren't that OP at all in Space Marine 2 anyways. They definitely do a lot of damage if you build into them, but they are also part of his overall kit and destroyable, so I don't think it's a problem, and they're not straight up busted like they were in the PTS anyways. But let me know how you guys feel about the current state of enemy spawns in patch 12. Have you noticed an increase in range warriors, and how do you feel about the range spam in general? Now, one other question Focus did answer a while back that people bring up a lot is if there will be an FOV slider for consoles. An FOV slider was originally not available for PC or consoles on the game's initial initial launch, but was added post-launch for the PC version of the game, and ever since, a lot of console players have wanted an FOV slider as well, but Focus has come out and said FOV for consoles is simply not planned. And I can only assume that this is a performance thing. Consoles already struggle to run things like Siege Mode, and hell, even PCs experience frame drops on high-end systems in this game, but that's the word of Focus. There will be no FOV coming to console in the foreseeable future. I know that might be controversial to some, but if they haven't added it by now, I would not expect it at all. And the final thing I want to talk about here is about bot customization. Back in patch 11.0, we did have an update that allowed you to customize your bots for operations. This only affected their appearance, so you could pretty much rep whatever chapter you wanted or a whole Deathwatch kill team. Players have since asked Focus and Saber if they could get the option to have team perks active for bots or choose which bots go on mission. Now, Focus already said that team perks for bots is not happening since it would make the game too easy. And as far as choosing which class your bot has in game, they said that while this could happen in the future, it is currently not a priority for them. They are primarily focused on the co-op online aspect of the game, so bot class selection probably won't be seen anytime soon. That may be disappointing to some people, but I imagine that most of the player base isn't playing solo with bots anyways, but it would be a nice feature to have one day in my opinion. And that is pretty much everything I want to talk about in this one. Techmarine has been out for around a month, and like I said before, a new public test server is likely coming towards the end of next month, and we'll be getting more info on that in the next community update and potentially an updated roadmap. But I'm curious to hear what you guys are looking forward to the most in the remainder of year 2, new operations, heroics, or the new siege mode map coming this summer. I will be covering it all on this channel, so if you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game, or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description alongside a link to my community Discord. And as always, if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching. Take it easy. Bye.